Okay, so Joe, before we dive into the topic for today, which is PR strategies for solopreneurs, which we haven't really talked about that much. Do you like my shirt?
That's awesome. That's a
Yeah,
dummy. That's a dummy, right?
it is a dummy. And I am wearing our dummy shirt because we just turned in the final pages of our book. The time of this recording, it is out of our control at this point.
It's done. As far as we're concerned, it's done.
It is done. So listeners, we're so excited about this. If you are listening to this before October 2025, go click on the pre-sale. We'll include the link in our show notes, but our book is available for pre-sale on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble. And then it's released to the wild first week of October, which is crazy. But I had to do that shameless plug because it's on the mind and we're done.
Yeah, well, that's nice, and it's and buying it pre-buying it helps us. So if you want to do something to help us, and a 5-star review is too much of an ask, buying the book early, if you're going to buy it anyway, would really help us. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So shameless plug over. But I wrote some of the marketing sections in the book.
Yeah,
And
kind of all of them.
yeah. I don't know why I was trying to throw you a little bit of a bone, but yeah, I wrote the marketing. You did all the harder stuff, in my opinion.
The mathy stuff.
The mathy stuff. But I dabble in PR in it because PR is kind of an intimidating thing for solopreneurs. And I think people think if you want to get media attention, you need to be a big deal and you need to have a big story to tell. And that simply isn't the case. And we actually interviewed Simone Sauter, a few months ago, and I'll include her link in the show notes because she has great recommendations for solopreneurs. But my biggest takeaways from her were that any solopreneur can do it as long as you're authentic, you have a story to tell, and you niche really, really, really far down on your audience. Was that kind of the same takeaways that you had from her?
Yeah, I mean, you want to definitely be focused on outlets. I mean, part of it, what else she said was kind of know who you're pitching your story to, because you go and pitch something to somebody that it makes no sense to, and you're just wasting your time and theirs. So really understanding the particular publication that you're pitching and what they do and what they don't do, and crafting your pitch around that is really helpful as well. And so I think she made a very strong point of that. Yeah, so there's definitely, having a very niched message where you're basically speaking to a specific audience, having a compelling story, right? If you have a good personal story, if you have some interesting statistics that nobody else has, they love that. Like you did some kind of a survey or something and have some information. People, these journalists love that. But the fact is, they're looking for stuff. They got to crank out these whatever magazine, newsletter, whatever it is that they're cranking out. They're desperate for material. You got to give them something that's, worth putting out there.
But I want to piggyback off of that. You want to give them something that is easy for them to understand. So even in the podcasting world, we get outreach sometimes by people that are like, hey, I want to be on your show. And then they write this really long paragraph. And then they're like, for more information, check out this website, check out my LinkedIn profile. And I'm like, no, we get so many podcast outreach emails every week. The ones that I typically respond to have a 1-pager that's like, here's recommended topics. Here's my quick bio. Here are my social media handles and my email. And here are suggested questions. Can I be on your show? And I'm like, oh, that's so easy. I know what you're about.
Yeah, short paragraphs and bullet points, right?
Yes. And so don't make it hard for the reporter, whoever you're reaching out to figure out what you do. Like if you have a compelling story, make sure you can tell it concisely, which is sometimes a hard thing to do, but they're never going to get that information unless you do it that way.
Yeah. Giving them 10 minutes worth of reading homework is about 9.5 minutes too long, right?
Right. And I will also say, get on their radar. I don't know why I'm treating myself like a media person, but I guess we kind of are. We have a podcast. And I have people that now I have relationships with who reach out to me and they're like, hey, I recommended Joe Rando for this show. I think you'd also really like Carly Reese. Here's some stuff. And I'm like, well, you sent me really good people before. I'm going to trust you. And so I'm also going to check out this Carly Reese gal, see what she's all about. So that's why it's so important to niche down, because then you can find media people in your space that you can really develop relationships with, whether it's commenting back and forth on LinkedIn or grabbing a cup of coffee if it's a local publication or whatever. Like, don't bug them, don't annoy them, but be generally helpful. When I see those repetitive people in my inbox, I'm like, "Oh, I know this guy. He sent me so many great people. He's on my radar. That's probably gonna be an easy yes."
And I think off of that, I mean, one that we have to make a distinction too. There's two different kinds of things you can do in the PR world, roughly speaking, and this is very generalized, but just simply break it down. There's guest articles, right, where you're writing something for a publication, it's your name's on it, and then there's the articles about you, or the interviews, or the articles written about you by a journalist. And it's much easier to do the guest articles, especially in the early days, build up your cred, and then transition over to maybe the interviews later as you've got a bunch of stuff in your name and maybe the publication or publications get to know you. But it's a lot easier to land those giving you material kinds of PR relationships early in the early days, and especially for solopreneurs, because you're probably not famous. There's a few famous solopreneurs, but not very many. So most of us are just kind of out there slogging, and if you can give them some good stuff, they'll publish it. Your name's on it. You can link back to it. You can put it in social media. You can do all kinds of stuff to help your business.
And in terms of helping your business, really focusing on your personal brand and your company's brand can go a long way with actually securing those spots. Because let's say they're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm really interested in this story that you pitched me. I'm going to look at your website." If your website it has a 404 error or is very outdated, doesn't follow best practices, could have been created in 2010. I mean, that speaks volumes to reporters, and they don't want to send traffic your way if that's going to be the
Yeah, and it's
experience.
important to tell a story, right? I mean, if you're telling them a story in a pitch, and you're basically sending a pitch email here, interestingly, in the subject line, it should say pitch colon, right? You want to say pitch colon, and then something that's going to grab their attention, that makes them excited to want to learn more about this particular story. But if you tell them a story and then they go to and you tell them a story about, solopreneurs and the growing number of solopreneurs in the United States, and then they go to your website and see that you're a website developer, for dentists, they're going to be like, what? Who? You really need to have to be congruent between what you're pitching, what you're talking about, and what you do and what you show to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I would say is, and like I said, solopreneurs can absolutely get media attention. It is helpful if you have a little bit of experience under your belt as a solopreneur, just for a little bit more street cred. Like if you just launched your website yesterday and you're pitching a person and you just started your business a week ago, like don't be discouraged if you're not getting the attention that you want right away. You do have to kind of put in the reps. And then once you have a little bit of street cred, once you have the client list, the customers built, then I think it's okay to start reaching out, because the little guys really can get that media attention as long as they addressed everything else that Joe and I discussed so far. Anything else?
I think that cuts. I mean, the obvious stuff. Use your network. If you know somebody that knows the reporter that you're reaching out to, and you should kind of try to identify the right reporter, the right journalist, the right editor, or whoever it is that you're reaching out to. If you know somebody that knows them and they can put in a good word for you, it's never a terrible thing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is all we have for today. As always, please subscribe to our podcast, leave that 5-star review, and share this episode with a friend. It means the world to us. And we will see you next time on The Aspiring Solopreneur.